My bad, y'all. I logged out of Facebook by accident earlier.
Okay.
You can talk to Shani anytime. It doesn't matter day or night. Shani, giving you light and love. We're coming on without a doubt. There's nothing you can't talk about. Shani, get ready to start the show. You're on with Shani and you know we're gonna talk. Ordinary people and extraordinary God. Check the reference in Ephesians 5. We walking in the light and we're living in love. You know with Shani we gon' keep it intact. Cause every Monday got it coming. Yeah, we coming right back. So act like you know we get it on and poppin' at the Shani Show. You can talk to Shani anytime. It doesn't matter day or night. Shani, we're giving you light and love. We're coming on without a doubt. There's nothing you can talk about with Shani.
Welcome to another episode of the Sharing with Shani Show. I am your host, Shani. It is April. It is the first Monday in April. I've got Mika fresh in the building. Say hi. Is that your Cash App?
Yep.
I know that's right. You better promote. You bet. I mean,
say make the ask, right? I'm making the ask.
You making the ask. Look, I mean, yes. So we're gonna talk about that. I got Mikel Rose in the building. I call him Mike Rose, Pastor Mike. And so we in here. And I'm excited. So Mika, we did not have a show last week. And right. I want to first thank you. I want to thank you for giving me space to say I don't have to do it all, right? Like, because, and I say that because I had a speaking engagement at 7. Like it started at 7:15. It's supposed to end at 8:15. Mm-hmm. And I was like, so I had originally when the original guest canceled, I was like, oh, I guess I could do this engagement. I didn't want to do it. But then like the day I got the email, I was like, oh, I don't have to do this because I got the radio show. But I keep calling it a radio show, but I got the Sharing with Shani show on Mondays. I'm out. That's what I said to myself. 4 hours later, the same day, the guest for the 28th canceled. So I was like, okay, God. I felt like God was trying to tell me something. Right. So I messaged back the convener of the Bible study, and I said, you know, I can do Monday the 28th. And so then in the course of that, she said, oh well, you know, it's only gonna be an hour, so we'll wrap up around 8:15. So in the process of that, I met someone at an event that about a week before, who said she really wanted to come on the show. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I'm booked until September 12th. And I was like, but if you really want to come on, I can squeeze you in on the 28th. She said, yeah, I really want to come on. Da, 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 da. Well, I always know something is up when a guest does not follow through. Like they don't even say, got the email. Like when you send them email, you don't get any response. So when I reached out to her on Monday, she had a lot going on. She wanted to reschedule.
Okay.
So by the time I talked to you, you're like, no, I'm going to pass. I think, I said I was off. I'm going to stay off. And I was like, I said the same thing. I'm going to take off too.
Yeah.
And I say all that to say it was good.
I really am trying to do better with that because it's not always easy. I feel like a lot of times I can definitely overanalyze my behavior, I guess is the best way to put it. I do take a lot of pride in my work ethic, and I also want to be the supportive. I feel like I am the supportive, loyal, encouraging, like all that. Like I'm that friend, but I also want to be a person of my word, even to myself. And it's been very easy for me not to be that for myself. So I've been working on doing way better for that moving forward. If I said I'm going to be off, I don't want to feel bad for resting. Oh, it's so horrible. I don't want to feel bad for resting. Like I don't have to squeeze something into every moment of my day to feel like I'm accomplishing something, I'm making moves towards my future. I don't want to get caught up in that warp because I don't know who created it, but I'm not here for that.
White men.
So I feel like the rich people, white men. Yes, I heard it. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I feel like rich people did it. Absolutely. So, I'm not here for that.
Did you know why they even implemented daylight savings time?
Mm-hmm. I heard I knew that before because my stepdad used to, it used to be a whole thing in our household, but recently because, that was put in front of Congress to get rid of it, they've been talking about it a lot. And the way the storyteller told it this time, it made me laugh out loud. I was just like, how did we even accept that? But we the people.
We the people. Mike, do you know why they instituted daylight saving time? So now I was told and taught that it was out of, so there'll be more daylight for farmers to work. So and when I say farmers, I'm really talking about like.
Yeah, we have.
indigenous farmers, migrant workers,
laborers,
slaves to mass produce. They needed more daylight to do that because prior to that, they used the wintertime to rest.
Exactly.
It's amazing how when white men were farmers, like it was okay for them to rest.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's because they trying to build workers and not thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, say a word, Mike Rose. Say a word.
Now, if you look at it's crazy, right? We think that they created education for us to gain education when education was funded by Rockefeller. He's the one who found the Department of Education and put money into it. And then they created the school system.
Well, they stole that. They stole the idea of public schools
and then they tell our kids that you have to be a construction worker. You can't be the construction owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely never remember being taught I could own anything going to school. Even in college, I got 3 degrees. I have
and nobody ever taught
degrees.
And
I
nobody
don't remember
They
any
never said
program.
You could own. Well, they did tell you. They probably the only thing that they said you could own probably was a house. So you could be in debt for like
that ain't come up either.
Because as long as you owe on the loans, you don't even own a degree.
Listen, they're gonna come take them.
We about to repo your degree.
Mike Rose don't be starting nothing.
Hey, listen.
Shani, what hand is that? What hand you got right there on your neck? What you rubbing with?
No. It is no. It. Let me put it on the wrong. What? I don't even know. This is not.
I saw it earlier, and I just been waiting for a turn.
No. All
right.
No. But I mean, we can speak it into existence.
Okay, I just.
So you're willing. I thought you said you.
I am willing and able.
No, that's been clear. Yeah, that's definitely been clear. Okay. It's on the table.
No, I know that I was born to be a wife.
Yeah. I was like, what did I miss last Monday?
It's not beauty supply. It's not. I was trying to blame.
Not the beauty supply.
It is.
I love it.
I do not even care.
I love it.
So, I mean, I feel like, why should I even introduce you, Mike? Like, you've been on the show
Mike
now
is fam.
4 times. Like, you are family.
Yeah.
But, like, what's
do it anyway? We might have new people.
What are you doing?
Trying to spruce up my leadership.
Ooh. Trying to spruce up your leadership.
What type of leadership?
Why do you feel like you need sprucing? That's a good question too, Mika.
Just overall, so I don't have my paper with me. I think I'm a I or S.
What does that mean? And what?
On my DISC assessment. My DISC assessment. I think I'm an I or S. And it was saying that I have great leadership ability, but I'm very indecisive. Like, it described me to a T.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? But even in those things, I also am very aggressive. Like, I ain't playing games. If you tell me you don't want to do it, I'll accept the fact that you tell me you don't want to do it. But don't come and overpower the people who decided to do it because you said you didn't want to do it. So then the aggressiveness comes out. I forget about the leadership. Now I'm protecting the person who told you just stepped on, because they stepped in a position that you said you didn't want to have. So I feel like, so now I'm just trying to become an overall better leader in general. You understand? Because most of the leadership work that I do is at the church.
Okay.
And not only at the church, but in my family too. And I just feel like I need to get, so I have 1 degree and I need to get the other 359 from somewhere. So I'm just trying to make myself better. That's it.
So, no, I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue, finish your thought.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking about, like, what, I'm not familiar with that test that you took, but I've taken a whole bunch of leadership and personality driven assessments. So would you consider yourself, like, are you a collaborative leader? Like, do you want, like, are you sitting at the table and having everybody so they bring their idea to the table?
So basically what the way the guy broke it down to me, he said, you can be a great leader, but when someone makes you freeze, it takes an act of God for you to come out of that frozen state. Because I'm just like, okay, that's how y'all want to do it? Do it. And then I'll sit under the tree and watch you.
I have a problem. My issue with leadership is delegation. I don't do it well.
You rather do it yourself? You rather do it yourself, or you're not comfortable with delegating?
I would be comfortable with delegating if I could give it to people clearly. Because
so you're having an issue communicating your delegation.
So it's not the delegation then.
It's my vision. It's communicating my vision.
Absolutely.
So because I blame it on creativity and spontaneity, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the way that God gives me things is very, very late night, early morning downloads, right? And then I'm off to the races, right? And I could just get it done. Where if I would just sit in it, and put it in words, and then send it to people. But I feel like I would have got it done faster before I go over the step of sitting in it.
So what
because
about
I'm
sending
so
a voice
excited,
memo? What about sending a voice memo?
I mean,
does that feel like you're still slowing yourself down too much?
No, it doesn't. But okay. I guess then what has happened in the past is I have a vision, mm-hmm. and I try to explain the vision, but then I feel that I'm like explaining it more than once.
Mm-hmm. Are you explaining it to more than one person?
No, sometimes it's the same person. Mm-hmm. And then I get frustrated because I've had to explain this more than once.
Mm-hmm. You've had to, or you chose to?
No, I've had to. I mean, in order,
you feel like they're not understanding.
They weren't.
So do you think,
it wasn't. I didn't feel like it. They were not, and they said, "I don't understand."
Maybe it's not your communication or your delegation. It's that you don't have the people that are perceiving your direction.
So yeah, that and okay, and
because was it the same person? Was it the same person or multiple people that you had to explain more than once?
You said the same person.
And in the particular instance that I'm talking about, was the same person. But
so you only tried delegating one time?
No, I've tried. No, Mika, I've tried delegating.
I want to be clear. You've tried delegating. Whenever you tried delegating,
I was labeled a leader. Since I was labeled. I ain't messing with you tonight.
So no. I want to be clear. I can't jump in this if I'm not clear. So there's a vision given. You move to delegate different people at different times. And with those people, you feel like you have to explain it more than once because they don't understand what you're asking.
Right. Now,
that's a communication issue.
Now,
it might not be a communication issue. It might be
different people. We got different variables thrown up in there.
Now, what I've learned mm-hmm. is that so in that instance, mm-hmm. I was flawed and it was my fault. But what I learned in that instance, what it taught me was I am trying to lead thinking that people have the same mindset as me.
Absolutely.
I need to lead from their gifting. Good leaders lead in the spirit of whoever's around them, finding mm-hmm. out what they're good at.
Yes, so you're not leading. You're coaching them.
Well, I think that's you think I'm coaching them? I don't know.
Yeah, that's.
I think leaders have to coach at some time.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Because when I started doing that, when I started to say, well, what about this event? Like it was always around event planning, especially for church, right? Mm-hmm. So what about this particular ministry is giving you joy? Is getting you excited? Is why mm-hmm. you joined this planning team? So mm-hmm. when I started asking those questions, and then someone would say, well, I really like the spirituality of the event. I like when we pray. I like when we open up in prayer. Okay, you know what? You lead prayer.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. Instead of, I was at first leading from this place of what do I need to get done? Mm-hmm. Well, I need an email to go out to all the speakers. How do you open the email? So that's not their gift.
How do you open the email?
That was a question. How do I? So look.
So that's why I'm saying it might not have been her problem.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I had to learn how to lead multiple people. I had to learn how to lead people whose skill sets did not match mine.
Dinosaurs. You had to lead some dinosaurs. They weren't tech savvy.
That can be really frustrating too.
Yeah.
Not impossible, but it's definitely frustrating.
It definitely, like, and so with that, knowing that I would have to, so like, what
was that an actual question though? How do I open the email?
Yeah. We don't, yes.
I feel like somebody playing with me.
Yeah,
I'd be like,
but
my 98-year-old grandmama know how to open and send emails. She hasn't worked since the Great Depression, okay?
But she has to want to do it too, Mika.
Absolutely. That's why I said I feel like somebody playing with me. Either you want this or you don't.
Listen.
Yeah.
Don't be wasting my time thinking like your dollar means something to me. Not for all of this work, it ain't. I go get another dollar. You're not gonna drive me crazy because you playing. Don't play with me.
Like it. I mean, I know. Okay, so I mean, this could. I ain't even gonna go there like that. But in my former marriage, one of us did not know computers, quote unquote. Like mysterious thing.
Clearly, we knew it wasn't you.
And I'm like, so I would get frustrated. I mean, if you know it, you should teach me. Like, you can't be everybody's teacher, right? And I'm like, well, so that would always, I said, you know what? DC government provides free classes.
I know that's right. I think my next shirt is gonna say, "This is not my ministry." Know when to say, "This is not my ministry."
And then the petty,
be okay with it.
I mean, like, so instead of, I mean, I can go there, but I'm not gonna go there because we're not talking about that tonight. What we are talking about is leadership. But I felt like, I mean, take you a class to learn what the Windows icon looks like.
Well, then they would have to be totally accountable. Blaming you makes you accountable, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I can make this your fault. No, you don't want to learn. If you relying on me, you waiting on me, you don't want to.
Man, look, I ain't even gonna fade y'all. When I was so glad that the homie knew all about like how to get to the show. Oh, it's on Facebook, how to navigate through social. He knows about apps that I don't even know. Like, what is that? Like,
right.
Yeah. But that accountability piece is facts. It's facts, right? Yeah. Because I'm like, oh, someone. Okay, I know this is like a little thing, but do y'all share y'all calendars with your spouses?
No, absolutely not.
On only on days when we're doing something together.
Oh, I mean, I like that, right? And when I was in corporate, a lot of my coworkers shared their calendars with their spouses it keeps the communication from being less. Like,
I agree. The idea of it is wonderful.
Right. Yeah. Like, right. So I couldn't do that. Right. I couldn't do that. It was problematic and it caused more confusion. I can share my calendar with them. I love it.
You confuse somebody by sharing what days you weren't going to be available?
Yeah. I can share my calendar with the homie, and the homie will say, "You got something to do on the 10th. You got," like, I was like, "Yes, go ahead for reading the calendar that I shared with you."
Yeah. Yep.
I think
I
you gotta match.
I try to share my Davuli stuff and doctor's appointments.
Well, I was like,
The
You can't
leadership
just be
initiative.
saying stuff and not sharing what it is.
The leadership initiative. I am now on a 15-month journey in the Divorce Urban Leadership Initiative.
Okay.
So when I have to do things with that, I share it. Like she has the dates for me going out of town at the end of the month. And the next time I gotta add the Mondays because we meet one Monday a month for 2 hours.
Okay.
And then we meet 3 months for a weekend. Well, not a weekend, it's Thursday to Saturday. So I share those dates. And I share like doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And like, don't plan nothing because I want to take you here type of days. But
yeah,
I don't do nothing. So I'm here.
I mean, but like when you got people that's grinding and you trying to build stuff, you gotta have communication.
Yeah. See, and I think that's what a lot of people lack that though. A lot of people don't want to build together. They want to be the one so everybody can say, yeah, we watch you build that pyramid and you died after you put the last brick on there. Because you worked yourself to death.
That's what I do.
Because you worked yourself to death. Like, I don't know, man. You right, son. That's what we got to start doing that. We got to start building together.
You do.
I need you to lift 50 of these bricks. Because when I got the 50 last time, my arms was hurting.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's what it is. So that's been the process, trying to become a better leader and work myself out of a job.
Come on now. You better talk about it, Mike Rose.
Like, I want to come on some Sundays and just sit down.
I have appreciated your evolution. Like,
wow.
I've watched you just like become this amazing. You were amazing when you was rapping and all that stuff, but like you just elevated. Like you went from street, like your whole testimony, like the street to the church to the and don't sleep on it. The street is still there because it's, but it's there in this healthy way of authenticity.
But that's, I had a conversation with Aisha the other day, and I told her the reason why I try to be so graceful to people is because I finally realized that I'm not the only person trying to keep my monster in a cage.
Come on, somebody.
I'm not the only person trying to keep my monster in the cage. And I would rather him stay in the cage so I can go home. And I would rather yours stay in the cage so I can go home.
Right.
And that's just where we are now. Like, it ain't all that, man. You look back at that stuff. Now I'm wishing I would have taught those kids something different.
Yeah.
Now I'm wishing that we would have been taught something different at 18, at 15, at 14, at 12.
Right.
Instead of looking up, man. Listen, when I was living on 14th Street, I was like 13 years old, man. The pimp dude used to come through there. He had this big old Jeep Wrangler, and it had to be like a 96 when they made them really big. And he had like women all over this truck. And I used to remember saying like, man, I want to be like that. And then like, you don't even know the problems that come with 75 women.
No, I don't. I have no idea what you're talking about. Anybody in the comments can relate.
I get it though.
I used to be like, man, I want to be like that. And I'm like, man, I'm happy God never let me be like that.
It's a real issue.
I mean, I would think that the
even
quantity
pimps got problems.
The quantity that would create a lot. Of problems.
I feel like they're logistical geniuses.
Time out. Okay, I just need to know. I mean, I know you're gonna keep it a buck with me, but it had to be a lot of lying. Like, how did you do that?
Man, I don't know how. I wasn't involved.
Oh, my bad.
It was a guy that we looked up to. His name was Pimp Gerald. And he used to always come through that block. He had all his women with him. And man, it'd be him and the guy who he trusted the most. It was always them and all of the women. And he used to ride through there and show them off and take them to 14th and K.
Now, nothing. Now, I'm just going. Somehow his leadership skills
were great.
Allowed that to happen.
They were great.
I'm definitely,
there's something good in everybody, right? So, like I said, he's a logistical genius. First of all, you gotta. That's a lot of responsibility, and right, like they're working different streets at different times, and usually the pimp know exactly where they are. So it's there's things that you can learn.
Right.
Absolutely. I just think that also, like, we don't know what we don't know, right? And so if that's all you know, if that's all you saw, what do you think? What do you think was gonna happen? What do people think was gonna happen?
Yeah, like I was telling, talking. Listen, I'm always gonna give you self-disclosure. When I was talking to my grandmother, and I said, "Yeah, you didn't teach me this. My mother didn't teach me this. Y'all didn't teach me this. They did. They were the ones that I thought was cool. So I did what they did because I didn't think you were cool. No, you didn't teach me that. I'm gonna be the one who tell you, nah, you ain't raised me like that. You didn't teach me to do those things. But those are things that I found that I needed to indulge in because that's what everybody thought was cool. So because everybody thought it was cool and I wanted to be cool, it's what I did.
Yep.
It's
I feel like even if this goes, I feel like this is one of those, they be like, oh, this goes without saying. Well, I'm gonna say it. Even when someone did teach us something, we have our paths for a reason. We all know right from wrong. So, the choices we make are the choices we make. Even, and I've seen this happen in real time. You grow up with somebody and you just be like, they have wonderful parents. You're a monster. Just be like, what happened? A lot of this stuff is personal choice. I choose to do something different. I choose to be disobedient. I choose to try something else, for whatever reason. But I do absolutely feel like it's not always parents' fault. There's not always a traumatic experience. But I do think our path is our path for a reason. And so when we utilize that for the good, it's powerful.
I agree with you. It's powerful, it's like man, I think I was 13 or 14 years old. This had to be 96? 95, 96. My mother was making $13,000 and she had 3 kids.
Right.
She couldn't buy me the stuff that I wanted. But even though I wanted, I had to hide it. It wasn't like I could bring it in the house and have it all over the place. She searched the room. She did all of those things that a parent was supposed to do. She did.
Right.
Aisha says, we are a product of our environment. Social influence is real. Which side of the coin we land on is up to us.
But even with that, right? It'll always be somebody who will know that you're supposed to be different and protect your difference.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
You want to know something?
You want to talk about
I like that. That was very well said.
Yeah, say it again.
Very well said.
I got
one more time. She gonna I was like, Shadi gotta write it.
I gotta write it down, and because I'm a cut, I'm all into video cutting. So what time is it? What time is it? Then you drop
8:39.
8:39.
You understand? Like, listen.
Very well said.
I had a friend, right? And he died about 5 years ago. He overdosed. Right? But I would go to the neighborhood, and this was around, I can't even remember, before I really jumped in like heavy for my last run.
Okay. I get it.
And when I would come to the neighborhood, he would give me $100 every day. and tell me I don't want you hustling.
Right.
Every single day he would give me $100 and say, I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do this. Man, I had another guy who was going to the NA meeting. He was like, man, if you don't stop hanging around here, they're gonna kill you. Just watch how they act when you step up here in this neighborhood. If you don't stop hanging around here or stop doing what you're doing, they're gonna kill you. And my man told me the same thing. Once I ran back into him, I think he got locked up. The last time I went to Charlotte, I think it was 2009, he got locked up. I came back home 2010. Yeah, 2010, because Mikel's mom, I had Mikel in 2011. I ran into him about 5 months before he OD'd. And he was like, they told me you're a pastor now. You doing something in the church? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I always knew you was different. I always knew you would always get away with, God would always bring you out of the situations that we had to face because he had something different from you. And this is somebody telling me this he was a dope fiend when I ran back into him. He wasn't even selling drugs no more. He was a dope fiend by then.
Yeah.
And he telling me this standing on the corner like, I know God was protecting you because you was meant to be different.
Now, when you hear that, you just gotta know that your life is on purpose.
Man, I wake up every day. I wake up every day and think about the things that I went through and look at my cat card. Like, I don't understand how I'm working on somebody's military base.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's something far beyond what I had planned. Sometimes you just have to just say thank you because I can't even explain to you. Can't even explain to you how it happened. I couldn't tell you. Man, listen, I thought I was gonna be at DCPS for the rest of my life. And then they called me in a meeting in April and told me, yeah, we don't have no job for you next year. And I'm going around to all of these schools and everybody told me no. Everybody told me no. And what happened was, because I had been there for 7 years, they had to pay me severance. So I was off, but they had to, I lost my job in August and they had to pay me until next August because of the job. Because of how long I had been there, they had to pay me for 12 months and they paid me every 2 weeks like I was still working. And I'm on Indeed, man, just messing around, and a lady called me, and they called me in February and gave me the job, and I ain't started working until October. And I'm sitting on the phone with this lady explaining stuff. Well, how you do? Well, we see you had this possession with the intent to distribute. What happened here? And I'm like, man, listen, man, I was a kid. And she's like, what you mean? I said, I was a kid. And this is what we were taught by the people who were older than us, and this is what I did.
That's what you told him?
I told him the truth, Shani. I talked to that lady on the phone, and I didn't lie to her at all. Why did you do this? If you look at it, I was 21 years old, I was 19 years old, I was 23 years old, I was still a kid, and these are the things that you do when you're a kid and you grow up in the environments that I grew up in.
I think it's just, I feel like it's a special skill set. We talk about ministries trying to do outreach, right? And it is a special skill set to do that, like street ministry outreach. No Limits does a great job with that. And I think it's just being able to connect. I've been talking about this for the longest time, but I think it's about telling your story. Right? Not being afraid to share that story, but it's a story of like how you overcame. Like it's a really good story of showing that God was even when you didn't trust God, even when you didn't know God, God knew you. God knew you enough to protect you.
Man, listen, when I tell people all the time, the scriptures work in my life because I allow them to. I stay out of God's way.
Right.
Listen, I might not talk to you, but I ain't cutting you off because you're going to watch this table get prepared.
Ooh.
I'm not going to cut you off. I'm gonna make sure my sons study. I'm gonna make sure my sons read scriptures. I'm gonna make sure my sons work in the church, because you need to understand now what it feels like to get all of this nervousness out, and you can understand that you can still do it through your nervousness.
Yes.
I gotta train my children up. You understand what I'm saying? I can't expect my wife to submit if I'm not submitting. I can't expect my wife to submit if I'm not being obedient.
Are you dancing, Mika? Did that?
It's just certain things that I can't expect if I'm in God's way, and I'm not in God's way anymore. That's why everything worked the way it worked.
What would you say to somebody that's still in God's way?
Hey, listen, we talk about it all the time. We have to understand that we are not in control of anything. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of the times we try to make the scriptures work in our defense or to cover us. Yeah. We try to use the scriptures to make what we feel and what we want okay. That's not the way it was written. It's the crazy part about it is like we're not consuming scriptures to do all we can do through Christ. We're consuming scriptures so we can sin and point out the reason why somebody else shouldn't be sinning.
Come on now.
We got that whisper lining up again. So yeah, that's probably another reason I'm humming.
What's your whisper, Mika? Bring it on home.
Yeah, it's leave God, let God stay in the room.
Exactly. Ooh. Exactly.
Let God stay in the room. Because a lot of times, we like to escort him out at a certain point in time.
Yeah, we're like, okay, God.
Okay, that's enough. I'm good.
I'm good with these blessings. Thank you for paying my light bill. I'm good.
Yeah, because you know why though? Because once that Holy Spirit gets to a certain place, people don't know how to respond to it because we weren't taught how to respond to it.
It feels different.
The name of my ministry is Organic Worship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't need you don't have to give me a reason. He already gave me the reasons for me to worship. Mm-hmm. And I'm building people around me who have the same worship.
Yeah. Like we gotta be on the same dream, your dream goals gotta be matching.
It's Matt Shani last week I didn't even get to preach. Carter was on vacation. I preached the Sunday before, went back last week. I didn't even get to preach. Man, the praise and worship went on for like 45 minutes. I got up there and said, God said, make sure you put yourself in a position to be coachable. Go away and sin no more.
I know. I mean, sometimes the praise is in the worship. Sometimes the message is in the praise.
Yeah. We use scripture to cover up our mess instead of using the scripture to allow God to make some transformation in our life.
Whew. I was at a retreat the last weekend in March, and it was a retreat that was planned 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I had 3 sessions, and I was the only. I've done retreats before, but I've never been the retreat leader.
Okay.
So by the second session,
give me some water.
By the middle of the second session, something came over me. Like it was just me and God in the room. Like the 27 women that was there, they weren't even there. I felt like Moses on the mountain, right? Because I heard God tell me, you couldn't have done this retreat 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that you've done since 2020 is for today.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know. All I know is that it's still a reaction from that. Like,
and you still have that because you put yourself in a place for God to invite you into his presence, and then you line yourself up so that you can hear him speak. A lot of people put themselves in a place for God to invite him into their presence, and then they sit down because they think it happened because of them.
Yeah. God tore the house down yesterday, is what Aisha said. Keep him in the room. Oh, thank you, Nelson Luke White. Testimonies are powerful. We must always tell them. Amen.
That's my man right there.
So I didn't even know he was all the people that I follow. He was like he knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I met him some years ago. He was my Uber driver. And we was talking about
It's a small world.
I know. My second book had just came out. And I used to have a book or 2 or 3 or 10 everywhere I went. Somebody either was gonna get a book, buy a book, need a book. I always had a book with me.
Okay.
And yeah, we talked about God the whole Uber ride. And
nice.
Then I go on Facebook and he's like friends with like 100 people that I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does before and after care for the boys, and they go to his summer program.
Nice.
Yeah, he a great little midget man.
He's really.
You're just tall.
Right, exactly.
Nah, Mika. He's about the same height as Mikel.
That's so wrong. Aisha said he's the plug. Well, hey, Pastor Nelson, you better put something in the comment because he's going on you. So tell us, I mean, you took your jacket off, but you got so many things in the pot. Like you working, you in a leadership class, you back at No Limits.
Oh, so yeah, so my
you and are you and Aisha still doing your relationship?
We got to get back to that.
Yes, because y'all was helping these young marriages and young people.
Yeah,
me included.
Yeah,
I'm older than you, but I was taking.
That's what they say. They come back and they say, "Man, what happened?" I'm like, "Man, I'm so sorry, God." That's all you can say. You know, like you told us to do it, and we decided that we wanted to stop. Mm-hmm. Man.
You kicked him out the room, Mike. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie. I used to. Hey, you sit right here because I'm not saying nothing to these people without going here. I'm gonna do the sermon and we gonna go. That's what we gonna do. He come right through the door. All right. I'm just gonna stand over here a little bit. But you know, it's a great thing, man. When you can line up and say stuff to people and you don't never meet them, and they look at you like, "How you know that?" Hey, I work for the boss. Hey, that's what Rick say. You still got to remember you work for the boss.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, life is good, man. I'm just trying to get out of God's way and let Him do His thing because I'm tired of having to reroute every time I make a wrong turn. I'm just trying to get to the destination the same way you want me to. I don't want to take 11 years to go 40 miles. I just want to go and get to where you want me to go when you want me to get there.
Amen.
You know, when you saying that, with you saying that, I'm reminded of the story, you know, the children of Israel. 40 years is a long time, y'all. I don't care if you were living to 200. 40 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like every time I hear the story or I read the story, something else gets revealed, but also it leads me to having even stronger feelings. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I just can't imagine. I don't want to either. So thank God that I don't have to. But I really do. I stop and I'd be like, okay, Tamika, don't create your own 40-year wilderness journey because we easily can, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just be like, when my daughter asked me, you know, I'm a Sunday school teacher, so we talk about praying, and I have the babies. I have we're just grouped into 2 big lumps right now, so I have 2 to 10, but most of the kids are like her age to maybe 11. I mean to 10, so like 7 to 11. Halo is 8 now, but I think we have a 7-year-old in there. Anyway, So, you know, they're at the age, and I remember being that age. I got saved when I was 10 years old. But I remember like going to church, hearing things, not necessarily understanding everything, but being very curious. Now, I feel like I was blessed because nobody like placated me. And I see that a lot in churches. You kind of ignore the young people because I think we underestimate the power of youth. And I don't understand how that happens because I'm like, well, what Bible was you reading? Because like
youth played a
it's younger people,
role.
right? Like wasn't Jesse younger than,
yeah,
wasn't David younger than, wasn't Alicia younger than, oh, okay, you know, and I'm not even a Bible scholar like that, but I'm like, I understand the role that young people had. And so when they have questions, I do feel like the worst thing you can do is placate them. So when, you know, when my students ask me questions, I'm like, well, let's talk about it. So recently they've just been asking, you know, like, well, what's the right way to pray? And for me, I was just like, you know, don't overthink it because then you won't do it. You know, because a lot of people feel like they're not good enough to pray. I got to sound like the thous and this and that and here with twos. And you know what I'm saying? You don't need to speak like that.
No.
So when, and because the creator absolutely desires nothing but relationship with us, I use this as a very opportune time to discuss what healthy, loving relationships look like. This is what you get from having a relationship, you know, with your creator. And so when we talk about prayer, I'm like, well, what would you want your good friend to say to you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, you would want them to be honest, you know, you would want them to listen, you would want them to interact. You know, if you were talking to your friend and you was just laying it all out there and they was just sitting there like, you know, you want emotion. It's the same, right? Like God wants some things from you and you want to be able to, how does it look if you have a friend that only comes to you when they need something? You get tired of that friend. You'd be like, you know, I'm gonna put them on do not disturb. I don't want to even see my phone ring no more, right? So I like to use those types of lessons, but when I talk about prayer, that's when I get serious, just because personally, I think I don't say it out loud. I don't really know why, but prayer has always been essential. But I will say in the last 5 years, I really valued my particular prayer life and the transparency that I have because I let God into every single aspect. I know he knows, but because intimacy is important, I let him know what I'm feeling. You know, I invite him into that space. And so that's what I'm teaching them.
Yeah.
Talk to him. Just talk. Just start talking.
Yeah.
There is no wrong way to pray.
It's not.
But then it just takes me back, right? Because people always say, I don't understand, man. It reminds me now, right? They came out of Egypt and they went into the wilderness, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Everybody who went into the wilderness died in the wilderness, and the people that were born in the wilderness came out of the wilderness. And it still seems that same way. The people going in died because they wouldn't let the trauma go from the past.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for me to take you to this place, I have to release you from the trauma
mm-hmm.
in order for you to get to where I want you to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't release you from the trauma from where to get you where I want you to go, you won't get to cherish where I'm sending you.
Come on now.
Yeah, like you can't receive it because you messed up. Like you want to stay messed up.
A lot of these people, they don't want to deal with these kids because they're stuck in their ways. We complain about the kids, but we don't want to teach them nothing. How can you complain about what I'm doing if you ain't helping me change what I'm doing or become better or understand more? Mm-hmm. It's a whole bunch of complaints and no relationship, no relationalism or whatever you call it. Mm-hmm. It's like we want to say they're doing this wrong. And then you watch them do it wrong and don't say nothing. Mm-hmm. And then you say, the generation is just off the hook. Man, listen, my grandmother moved to a new neighborhood about 7 years ago, and she run the neighborhood like she been living there her whole life. Sometimes I'm out there and I'm like, man, leave them people alone. She tell them boys, pull your pants up.
Yeah.
All
but
of
we
that.
need that.
Exactly.
And the thing about it is no matter how, you know, far off you think an individual has gone, they want that and they crave that. And when they get it, I had a funeral last week. I went back home to Brick City. I haven't been home in a while. Not that part home. Like that's home. Newark is home.
Newark?
That's where I was born and raised.
Oh man,
and so usually when I go home, I'm in like Plainfield or Edison, you know, because that's where most of the family is. But I was in the heart of Newark, downtown Newark, for a funeral, and I passed two of my. I went to a lot of schools, y'all. I passed two of my elementary schools, and I was, you know, just sharing with my husband, and I was sharing with my daughter how it was for me. I had to take the city bus. So my mom worked at UMD&J for my entire life, like before I was born up until we moved to Virginia. She had, you know, like maybe 2 other jobs in between there. Didn't last long. She went back to the hospital. So she used to, this Catholic school that I went to in the 1st grade, we had to take the bus, and she got off, I want to say like a good 3 blocks, long blocks before I did. And the bus driver used to take care of me. So my mom had been taking that bus, you know, for years. And when she had to bring me along, the bus, my school was not on the bus route, but he would go all the way to the corner and make a special stop. And I'm not gonna mention his name because I don't know if the guy is still alive, so I won't mention his name. But you know, we had a dealer on the corner. The bus driver looked at that guy and he said, "Hey, we got a little sis down here. She going to the school in the middle of the block. You make sure she get there okay." And he was like, "Yes, sir, Mr. Jones." I know Mr. Jones is gone now because he was like 70 at that time. You know, like if he ain't gone, like God bless you. But he was like, "You got it, Mr. Jones." And I would get off the bus, and the dude would grab my hand, he'd be like, "Come on." This is every morning. He will ask me, "So what you learned yesterday? What you want to do with your life? How you feel like you're gonna avoid ending up like me?" You know, it was no cut card. He would be very honest. You don't need to end up like me. You can make better decisions. You have people that support you. You got Mr. Jones looking out for you. I'm looking out for you. Ain't nobody really do that for me. I'm doing that for you. And he would tell them dudes, if y'all touch her, that's it. She going to school, she gonna be something different, and she gonna come back and do something different. That's all he would say. And nobody ever laid a hand on me for 2 whole years. Nobody ever touched me. Nobody ever talked to me. Nobody ever bothered me. 2 whole years I went to that school. And every day we had the same conversation. So he'll be like, "How you gonna be great today?" I'd be like, "Well, I'm gonna do, you know, I hated math." And he used to be like, no, you can't hate math. You're not gonna be much if you hate math. You gotta get a better relationship with it. You know, we just used to have a good conversation. And he would walk me the next 3 blocks to get to school. And Mr. Jones will absolutely get on his behind. You know, he'd be like, "Come on now, you can't be doing that in front of," like if senior citizens was crossing the street, you know, he would put away whatever he had. He would pull up his pants. He would turn his hat the right way. He would, "Good morning, ma'am. How you doing?" We need that. Yeah. We need that. You know what I'm saying? People, youth, adolescents, they want to know that they are cared for. They need structure. It's when they don't have structure that they go awry.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why I always say, like when people want to start nonprofits, like I'm all for that, because not for nothing, but historically the church was that
absolutely
entity, right?
Yep.
The church was that entity until the 70s, until the government you know, started putting these tax write-offs for churches, so then they couldn't get political. But the church was very much what we now rely on social services to do for our families.
Yeah.
Right? And we need to bring that back.
And where I'm from, it was like all the religious centers, the church, the mosque, the temples, they all provided that. You didn't need to be Jewish to be able to get help from a Jewish mosque, a Jewish temple. You didn't need to be Muslim to get help from, the mosque. You didn't need to be Christian to get help from the church, because if we're doing the work, right, whoever your God is, if we're doing the work, then you don't need to do what I do for me to help you, right? Especially for Christians. If Jesus sent me here to love, then there is no if then statement with that, right? Because that's how I explain the promises of God. It's like an if then, but it wasn't if then love. It was just love. That was the complete sentence. You know what I'm saying? So that is definitely how I grew up. And that is, Newark is one of those melting pots of cultures. And so that's how I grew up, understanding a lot of different beliefs and being immersed in a lot of different cultures, because it was all there. I went to an Islamic day school. We converted for a couple of years. I went to an Islamic day school. I had friends of all different cultures and backgrounds. That's how I learned how to speak different languages, and I understood different religions and belief systems and stuff like that. But the one thing that I always understood was, when you are about your belief, then you're a helper, and you're about community and making sure that people are able to be okay. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Without judgment too.
Yeah.
It's just, come on in. We got what you need.
Wasn't there a story in Acts where it talks about like being in community and
you're asking the wrong person. I have no clue.
And people not having to borrow, because whatever they lack,
okay, I do know that.
They were sharing amongst the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just what they had tangible, but knowledge. Like
that's a part of legacy too.
Come on, man.
It ain't just the things that you can physically pass down, but your stories. We don't have storytellers and families anymore. Nobody wants to sit down and listen. So we're missing a lot of that legacy. We're missing a lot of that. And that's why we're begging for bread.
Exactly.
Nobody want to sit down and listen. You want come off of mute, Mike. What you doing? Talk. Yeah, you on mute.
I didn't know I was muted. Shani did.
Yeah, you muted. Shani did
it. I didn't know how to do that.
So two things. The first thing, like you said, right, when you were saying about the community aspect and doing those things, it might be maybe one or two times when I heard Jesus say, before he performed the miracle, "Do you believe?"
Mm-hmm.
And we say, oh, like you said, if they're not this, then we can't do it. If they're not that, then we can't do it. But most of the miracles and the transformation of people's lives that Jesus performed were people who didn't believe the same thing as him. Mm-hmm. I don't know how we got into this let's stay inside the fellowship hall type behavior.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is like people, we not telling the stories because we got so much under the rug.
Oh, child. When you coming back on for that part?
We got so much under the rug. We can't tell the stories because if we tell the story, we might
reveal ourselves.
Yeah, we might slip and tell something that we don't want people to know.
I just put my popcorn in my mouth on that.
What we gonna do?
Yeah, I drank all my tea.
But we
I have to, right. I drink my water.
We say that we want to be free. How?
The truth.
Well,
the truth. Yeah, it's a lot, and people don't want to commit as well. Faith takes commitment, and I notice a lot of people like to skirt the lines. And I literally just had to have this conversation 72 hours ago. I'm a spiritual person. I said, but what kind of spirit, yo? Because it's a lot out there. I don't know if you think you saying something because you I don't know, I believe in God per se or Jesus per se or whatever. I'm spiritual, but what spirit? Do you understand? You don't even need to be a Christian to understand that they're spirits. You know what I'm saying? So I actually, in actuality, this is a personal belief. I believe more non-Christians understand the spirit world like way better than we do. And like that needs to change. We got to definitely understand how spiritual, you know, the spirit realm is a very real thing. So when I hear people say that, I just be like, I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed. Okay, you're spiritual.
It's like you say, God, tell me what to do, and then we say, nah, tell me something else.
Mm-hmm. We don't want to hear it.
I don't want to do that. Tell me an easier way to do it. You know, we don't want to work for nothing. We want it to be handed to us. Like, listen, I always, Aisha always was like, you be tripping, but I feel like I have like this Muslim Christianity faith. Because after I pray for it, I'm going to get it. I'm not waiting for it to fall out of the sky.
Yeah. I can understand that culture, you know, like what you're saying. I can relate to that. There is, like I said, you know, when I was a kid, I converted. Well, my mom converted us, but I was heavily into it. I actually taught myself Arabic, and I was very fluent in it, speaking it, and I was learning to write it. I could read it very well, but just being immersed literally like 24/7. I went to school. I helped out, you know, my service was in different mosques or with Muslim families. And then I came home, you know, to a Muslim mom. So that was what I did, you know, for however many years straight. And so, and I wouldn't change anything for the world, because being able to have different perspectives helps me to appreciate more where I am now, you know, and understanding that all of that was necessary to create the person that you see now. So when you make that kind of statement, like, I get it, and the structure that comes along with Islam, I think is desirable. You know, it's admirable too. And I feel like, I will say this though, because I've had experience with Christians from other countries, it's something different in that too. So I don't know if it's like American Christians. You know what I'm saying?
Western Christianity is definitely tainted.
I think Western anything
is tainted, right? And so
different.
That's why you have to have your personal. That's why you have to know Jesus for yourself.
You gotta have I am so big on relationship, because I feel like we have all been or will be tested. Like, your faith is going to be tested. It's going to be very easy to abandon it. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be very easy to abandon it. You got to have a relationship. No, because nobody else is going to be able to pray you out of that.
Because everybody, you know, people call me asking me about that guy from the cross movement who walked away from the faith or whatever. And he's supposed to, you know, they did like 10, he was saved and doing all of those things for like 20 years, and he woke up and was like, I'm not doing this no more, and I'm not doing that no more. And you know, when you have a real sincere relationship with somebody, you don't just wake up and walk away.
You don't. Absolutely not. Yep.
Even if you try to wake up and walk away, the relationship is going to pull you to call, pull you to send a text message. It's going to pull you to do something to reach out to that person, even if you just letting them know you okay and checking to see if they're okay. Relationship, when you have a real sincere relationship with something, you don't just wake up and walk away from it. I can't tell you why people make the decisions that they make, but I know when you have a real relationship, you don't just wake up and say it's over with, I'm done. And you know, so
it's the valuing of relationships has to exist, and that's another thing. So when you look at society as a whole, that's not valued. So if you don't value that in the physical realm, I know you don't value that in the spiritual realm.
Exactly.
And so that's how I know, you know, because I believe in meeting people where they are. So that's how I know where I'm gonna meet you.
It'd be crazy you get to heaven and all the winos up there.
Hello.
They do a lot of praying though, don't they?
Listen,
Like,
listen.
we
Listen,
like to judge, but I'm saying, you know,
I've seen some things happen.
Yeah.
Not growing up, attending the church, because I went where my grandmother pressed me out. So, but I've seen some things, man, and I've seen some. Whew.
I mean, it's like, y'all remember how DMX used to open his concerts with prayer? Every CD had prayer, and I remember just hearing people. He could do all of that, but he can't be. I said, see.
You know, but I'm gonna tell you,
clearly missed it all.
I just used something. I just used something he said. I think I posted it yesterday or today. He said whenever I went through something, it made me closer to God, and I stayed in something. So now I'm closer to God. And people don't understand. People don't understand. People don't understand.
Well, it doesn't feel comfortable for them, so they reject it.
Yeah.
Right? But it really
crazy.
is, when you listen to somebody like that, when you listen to their testimony, when you listen even to that prayer, you can't even, those prayers, right? You can't help but, to me, okay, I'll make this personal. I was not the biggest DMX music fan because I've never been really big with listening to things, you know, a lot of profanity and stuff like that. But I liked him because he was very transparent. Like, for me, and I met him a couple of times because I used to do security at the airport. So I met him a couple of times. It was always what you see what you get. You know, the DMX in front of you is the same DMX on the stage. You know, it was the same DMX at the executive table. He was acting, whatever. He was the same guy. So when I met him the first time, I remember just kind of like it increased my fanhood just a little bit. But I remember the second time, he remembered me. He was like, "Oh, you still got the job, huh?" And I was like, pays the bills. And we had like a 30-minute conversation. And two nuggets that I got out of it was, you can always feel, you know, when somebody is connected in a particular way to the creator. And so his heart is his heart. You know what I'm saying? We all got trials, you know, we all going through something, and we all got lessons. But I just felt like when somebody prays like that sincere prayer that he always had, stop judging and learn something from it.
He was the epitome of flesh versus spirit.
Yeah. And he knew that, and he would speak on it. He was very verbal about that.
And see, but a lot of people don't realize that.
Shame.
That's why they can say he did that, and they leave right from out of the church, shouting and praising and slobbing and falling all over the floor, and go jump in the bed with somebody's husband or somebody's wife, or they go and beat up their children, or they go and do whatever they do. Because people, it's a lot of things that go on besides smoking and drinking and doing drugs.
And that's the other side to it, right? We look at somebody, you'd be like, oh, he a drug dealer, or he a gangster, or he this, right? You'd be like, Mr. So-and-so right next door to you beat his wife every night.
Exactly.
What's the difference?
Exactly.
Like, we all hear it. What's the difference? You know? So again, but you know, that's judgment. And that's one of those things that makes us feel better, you know, just humans. It makes us feel better to be able to point the finger at somebody else. You'd be like, well, I might beat my wife, but I ain't killed nobody.
Yeah, because when you go to the scriptures, everybody's a prophet. Touch not my anointing and do my prophet no harm. You ain't spoke life to nobody. Now you think that's a representation of you? Come on, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just at the place now where I don't want to play it. I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to play church.
You can't play no more.
Yeah, it's just we gonna do it or we not.
I just feel like if COVID has taught us nothing, it had to teach you you can't play no more. It's not the time.
Exactly.
Like, if you didn't know before, you know now.
Yep.
Right? As many people, as I'm always bothered, you know, when people lose somebody and they do that, oh, we got to keep in touch. And then they actually don't keep in touch. You know, I lost my grandmother, my father's mother, in 2006. I had not seen her 10 years prior to that. This was somebody that helped raise me, right? Like I was seeing her on a weekly basis. And for half a year, she lived with me and my mom until she did go back to Georgia. And I hadn't seen her since then. So from 1996, June 1996 up until October 2006, I had not seen Ruby Jean. That was my grandmother's name. And I, you know, there are various reasons, right? Like money and distance. She moved like to Butt Crack, Georgia, where she was from. And I just kind of had a fear of traveling there by myself. And then, you know, when you finally get somebody to go along with you, it's like, okay, now I don't have the money. So it just felt like there was always something. Mm-hmm. She died literally in front of me, like in my presence, sitting 2 inches away from her. And that messed me up for like 2 years. I was grieving that. For 2 years, I cried every single day. And I remember I got sick and tired of crying. I had talked to my pastors about it, my bishop, who is now gone. I got scared too. I was starting to have dreams of like I was dying, and I was like, this is major. Somebody gonna have to help me with this. Like there's a lot happening. And it wasn't necessarily any regret like, oh, I mistreated her or I didn't appreciate her. It was nothing like that. It was literally just this person that meant so much to me. For whatever reason, I haven't been in her physical presence in 10 years. And the second day of our weekend, she was gone, just like that. And it just didn't sit well, and it took a long time. But what helped me process all of that really was I had to have an honest talk with God. I was like, this is too much. It's too heavy. You know, what am I supposed to get out of this? Why am I now fearing death? What is going on? You know, and it was like, different scriptures would come, different people would just, you know, lay good little nuggets on my heart, or they would text me something or email me something, you know, pray with me. Like people I haven't maybe seen in a while, didn't know that she died. It's, you know, God led me to prayer. Is, you know, just different things that I shared with y'all before. I don't let everybody pray with me. So, you know, I did feel in that moment they were being sent. And what I said to myself was, I will never make excuses. If you're a loved one, you're important to me, and I value my relationship with you, I'm going to make sure I see you and I get to spend time with you. So from that moment on, that's how it is. So I had a funeral last week, and funerals bring out some weird things in people. And just, you know, hearing the different things being said, I remember just kind of sitting there thinking, why do we keep waiting for death? What, we've been in COVID, you know, for 2 years now. If you ain't figured it out by now, it's because you don't want to.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not important to you. And now you're just saying things that sound good. But don't ask for my number. Don't ask for my handles. Because I take it serious. You know, somebody says, hey, give me your number, I want to keep in touch. To me, like, that's a charge. You know, that's like, all right, I got somebody else that's on my prayer list now. I got somebody else that I care for now. I have somebody else that I feel, you know, like spiritually and soulfully responsible for. To me, that's serious. But it's not to you. And so I, you know, now I feel like it's a joke and you playing me, and I don't really want to be bothered. So I was asking like real live questions like, are you going to use this number? And they was looking at me like, what do you mean? I said, don't just put my number in your phone. Are you going to call? Are you going to text? Are you going to reply if I call and text first? If not, don't worry about it. You know, I'll just see you next trip. Ain't no big thing. No love lost either.
We just hope it's not you.
You know, but my priority is I got to be, like I said, Shani, I have to be a person of my word. you know? So it ain't about money, because we find the money to do everything that we want. We really do, right? A lot of us be like, oh, I can't go, you know, tolls and New Jersey Turnpike ain't cheap. Getting out of Baltimore ain't cheap. It's like $8 now. I was like, dang, is there another way around this? But you know what I'm saying? Like, tolls is not cheap anymore. But we find a way to pay for everything else that we want to pay for. I understand. I'm from New Jersey. Like 99% of my family is in New Jersey. I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna be like, oh, but why you ain't come to Virginia? Who knows? Do I have the resources to make it to New Jersey and visit this family member? Absolutely. So then let's go. Let's go. You can meet me at the corner store for 20 minutes and I'll be good. You know, because I don't have time and my schedule. Cool. But just mean what you say and learn and do something different for once. We are losing people faster than we can bury them. This is a real thing. We're losing, people are dying faster than they can find a place in the ground for them.
Right.
Like they are offering deals to cremate folks.
Yeah.
Y'all not understanding.
Yeah.
And you holding grudges for what? You not reaching out for what? You putting your party over your family for what? You know what I'm saying? And I know what grief feels like. And I just be looking at folks like, you don't want that. You don't want to be crying for somebody for 2 years. That don't feel good. Like it hurts. It hurts. Do you understand that? And we was on good terms. I don't even know what it's like for people that just cussed out somebody and then 2 weeks later they're like, oh, he died.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling.
Those people show up on my couch.
Yeah.
I'm going to just say it that way.
And
and it don't have to be that way.
Yeah, I don't know that personally, but I've seen what happened
to it's
people
ugly.
When there was no reconciliation before death.
Yes. It's a hard thing to do because like how you can't work that out with them.
Mm-hmm.
All you left with is all those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
All of that overthinking. Oh my God, could I have said, what did I do? Why? You know what I'm saying? And you just driving yourself bonkers trying to figure that out when really all you got to do is let it go. So, you know, it's just COVID came to teach us a lot of things that we keep dismissing.
And outside of that, I think it also showed us that we need to set the church up in a different way. You know, like I feel like if we have all of these people coming here after being locked down for 2 years, barely going to work, barely being around people, we need to start having some therapists here. I mean, we can't pray away the clinical depression that somebody gained in the 18 months that they were locked in their house. We can't pray away the
and some still are, right?
The clinical anxiety and all of these things that people,
those are
the
real
grief
things
that has built up and all of those things. We got to do more than open up the altar. We have to be able to open up the office too and let people sit down and talk these things out. We have to now, the church has really become the mental health hub outside of being the hospital, because everybody's trying to mentally get back stable. Everybody's trying to mentally get back to a place where they were. And it's going to be rough for a lot of people. And we got to set the church up to be able to meet those people where they are.
Mm-hmm. I came up in a church that was definitely an advocate for all. Like my pastor was holistic. The first fast that I ever did, I was 9 years old, you know, fasting for 12 hours a day, sipping on water and using Tom's of Maine toothpaste because it don't have certain additives in it, you know. So my pastor was definitely organic and holistic, and you know, electric foods and mental health is a real thing, you know what I'm saying? And doing a good job with showing, you know, examples where it existed in the Bible, because a lot of people will feel like, oh, it's something new, and it's like, absolutely not. But so for me, that the church has been that space, right? It's always been that space. And we've had social workers, you know, and he would open up hours where, hey, we got open counseling. Let's go group counseling.
While,
you know what I'm saying?
while
Come
David,
talk it out.
While David was running from Saul, the man who he gave full authority over his life, who he was going to bat for, who turned around and wanted to kill him. In the process of him running, they say he was out in the public, drooling and wiping stool on the wall. That's not normal.
Right. I love your facial expression. You're like, that's not normal. And then you're right, it's not.
But we'll look at it and say, oh, well, no, this man was suffering from some extreme mental issues. The person who he was serving and wanted to make sure that he gave his best to turned around and got jealous and wanted to kill him. That's not something that we normally deal with on a day-to-day basis. And in the process of running, it drove him crazy.
Yeah. It's all there. We like you said, we pick and choose. So we definitely need to utilize, the resources that I feel absolutely, is here for us to utilize. Stop condemning folks, telling them they're not saved enough or they don't have enough faith. Because they have anxiety or depression or whatever else. That hurts my soul for real. We talked about this, right? Church hurt. So it is a real thing. And I think a lot of people have those experiences that do push them, after 20 years of ministry, like, I'm not doing this anymore. But keep praying.
I will. All right, y'all. I gotta go.
Yes.
We over.
Yes.
We a lot over.
We are a little bit over time, but it's all. I mean, when you start sharing, that's what happens.
Call me. Let us know when the next person cancels.
Yes, I will definitely do that. Keep praying for you and Aisha and y'all ministry and raising those children and all that good stuff. Mika,
she has something she wants to tell you.
Okay.
Oh no, babe, I wanted you to do it.
I don't have
come on now. We hear you now.
Hey guys, I'm here.
What's up, Ish?
I was just coming through to let you guys know that the First Generation World Changers is having a Mother's Day event May 7th, Paris and Pearls, where people come out to celebrate their moms. So Mika, I hope to see you and Mama Fresh there. And you too, Shani.
So send us, you got a flyer?
Yep,
Share the flyer. All right, thank you.
See ya.
Thank you.
Mika, tell us the whisper again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let the creator stay in the room.
Let the creator stay in the room. Folks, this is the Sharing with Shani show, highlighting ordinary people working.
So remember, you had asked for Mike to repeat what he said earlier, right?
Yes.
There are always people that know you are different, and they will be there to protect that difference.
Yeah,
that's a real thing. And I thank God for those people.
And you guys can come and hang out with us on Sundays at 7721 Barlow Road, Landover. No Limits Outreach Ministries. Now she got so much to say now. She didn't even want to tell y'all about the event.
Oh, because you was the main point.
It could be because you kicked her out earlier and said, don't come on my show. I'm the guest.
I just be talking to her. She didn't pay me no attention.
She used to it by now.
She don't pay me no attention.
You don't need all of that.
You're right, Mika.
All right, y'all.
Love
this
y'all.
has been a great show.
All right, thank y'all. Holla at y'all later.
Holla.
Good night. Give me my man back.